This evening, to call to order the meeting of the Hillsboro School Board. I want to note the absence of Director Monty Akers, who is out ill this evening, won't be joining us. And as we start, I would like to do so by call for reflexive. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming this evening. We will proceed with our agenda. First off, with Mike for recognition.
Well, each January we celebrate Board Recognition Month, and so I do have a proclamation I'd like to read to thank all the board members for their many hours of service that they provide. So here's the proclamation. Whereas school boards create a vision for what students should know and be able to do, and whereas school boards establish clear standards for student performance, and whereas school boards ensure that student assessments are tied to established standards, and whereas school boards are accountable to the community for operating schools that support student achievement, and whereas school boards align school district resources to ensure that students meet standards, and whereas school boards create a climate that supports the philosophy that all children can learn at high levels, and whereas school boards build a collaborative relationship based on trust, teamwork, and shared accountability, and whereas school boards are committed to continuous education and training on issues related to student achievement, we declare appreciation to the members of the Hillsboro School Board of Directors and proclaim the month of January 2016 to be School Board Recognition Month. Thank you very much.
Very good. With that, we'll move to our next agenda item. And so I'm doing this note to ballot. I'm going to need the sheet for reading on public audience time. I don't see that I have that sheet. That will come up shortly. Thank you. Very good. Next, we'll be looking for an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion is made by Glenn and seconded by Janine. The agenda. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on our agenda, we have audience participation time. This is the time in our meeting where we set aside time to make sure that we take community input. And as such, there's a statement associated with this that I direct to read. Public participation in board meetings is governed by policy BDDH. Patrons may comment on specific agenda items at the beginning of the meeting or at the discretion of the board chair may be deferred to a time the item is before the board as stated in the agenda. Comments about non-agenda items will be heard during audience time at the beginning of the board meeting, regular board meeting. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of school operations and programs that are of concern to them. However, in public sessions, the board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. Other channels provide for board consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals, including board policy KL and KOB, public complaints. If anyone wishes to address the board, there are cards in the back, board agenda cards that can be filled out. Please fill them out and get them to Val. And we have several people. I believe we have I have six card items here on a topic that's not currently on our agenda for today. So we'll take those comments now. If you would come up individually, first up will be John Gresham. And you can, in the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. And there'll be a little warning light at 2:30 and then 3. And the next person on deck would be Jamie Partridge. Just
All right, my name is John Brescio. You want my address, please? 8730 Southwest 147th Terrace, Beaverton. And I'm a community member, and I came tonight just because I was really disappointed with the board's decision to call for no raise in the minimum wage. I work in the community as an employment case manager, and I'm just really sick and tired of placing people in jobs that pay low wages where they can't even pay their bills and contributing to the working poor. And I hope that you, as a board, will take another look at this issue and reconsider for the sake of the families in the Hillsboro School District and throughout our community. Thank you.
So next up, we have Jamie Partridge. And following Jamie, we'll have Scott Oak.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Partridge. I am Chief Petitioner on the ballot initiative to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour in Oregon. My address is 5831 Northeast 10th Avenue in Portland. And our position is that no worker should live in poverty, and certainly no child should live in poverty because of poverty wages of their parents. And this school district has a big problem with poverty. 50% or close to 50% of the children are eligible for reduced or free lunches. Hillsboro needs at least a $15 minimum wage. The studies show, whether it's the Alliance for a Just Society or the University of Washington Self-Sufficiency Standard, that to get off of food stamps or Section 8 housing or child care subsidies or the Oregon Health Plan, workers need at least $15 an hour. It was mentioned apparently by the decision of this board a couple of weeks ago that you're worried about the budget, about the impact on the budget, school budget, and raising the minimum wage. Setting aside the fact that taxpayer money shouldn't go with keeping workers in poverty, school bus drivers, food service workers, landscapers, the folks who work as aides in the classrooms. The fact is that your budget will benefit. When these workers don't have to rely on safety net programs, taxpayers in Oregon will save $1.7 billion according to the Oregon Center for Public Policy. Not to mention the fact that when workers make more money, they pay more in taxes. So where's the budget problem when there's more tax money available for the school districts? Plus, if we're worried about children having better educational outcomes, we know that family stability is critical. And if we have to worry about whether there's going to heat in the house, whether their parents are working 2 or 3 jobs, whether they're spending time with them, whether the parents are able to make the rent, so the children have to worry about whether they're going to have a place to stay. This all really contributes to poor educational outcomes. So we know that raising the minimum wage is going to improve educational outcomes. It's going to improve the entire community, and you all should be ashamed of yourselves for taking that position. Hillsboro needs a raise.
Scott Oak. And next up would be Cunningham, please.
Scott Oldham I'm a parent of the 2 high schoolers here in Hillsboro, 31835 Northwest Wasco in North Plains. I'm out here today to tell you that my daughter, who just graduated, is now attending PCC. For her to attend a full-time, they work, the other daughter also, they work minimum wage jobs. And for us to expect them to go out into Hillsboro right now and fend for themselves on $9.25 an hour and attend school full-time, let alone the fact that they need transportation back and forth. They're struggling with the fact that they can't afford transportation, and there is no transportation out of North Plains over to PCC. And so at $9.25 an hour, it is impossible. What I do also know is that the board has zero determination on minimum wage in Oregon. Am I correct on that? that to legislators. I definitely voted for some of you on this board, and I'm really happy with my vote on some of you, for sure. I think, you know, moving forward from here, the board should probably more look at the 4th worst graduation rate. I think that should really be a focus. I know that's not on the agenda this evening, but to me, I think 4th worst in the nation probably should be on the agenda every month. So with that, I would like you guys to reconsider what you already put out there. Thank you.
And after that, it's Michael Day.
So thank you for giving us the time. Like I say, thank you, special recognition for your hard work on being elected school board members. I greatly appreciate it. You always do one. But I'm here tonight just to speak about what happened on January 12th. We're here to start. We noticed that on the January 12th school board vote in opposition to the minimum wage increase was uncalled for, unnecessary, and meaningless. Uncalled for because it is it's not about the budget update. Was given as the superintendent usually does on these board meetings, work sessions, is a budget update, and the school superintendent and staff outlined some potential shortcomings that may be coming down the line. Unnecessary because they were also commented that the minimum wage issue was a stick issue, an issue with many concerns, questions, and inputs that still needed to be accounted for before any decisions could be made regarding the budget or future shortcomings for the school district to consider. Meaningless because, as Scott pointed out, the Hillsboro School Board has no control or say on what our Oregon State minimum wage law should be. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the record that I have. Furthermore, currently Governor Brown has submitted a minimum wage proposal for the state legislature to consider. Here is the short session that starts next week. Also currently, there are 2 groups in the state of Oregon who are gathering signatures to place measures on the November ballot. So my hope is that the legislature makes some type of resolution. If not, it will come in November for the voters to decide where the minimum wage increase will come. It is without denying that property wages are hitting Hillsboro pretty hard. For those of us who have neighbors or friends or kids in school who are unable to buy the resources they need for school supplies, and constantly teachers are constantly I'm reminded that they're buying and paying for their own school supplies. But by publicly opposing minimum wage increase, the school board has driven a deeper wedge between those that have and those that have not here in the community of Hillsboro. And I think we're better than that. We've come to the point where we're alienating the Latino community. Many of us who work at near minimum wage wages, barely making ends meet on a week-to-week basis, even sometimes on a day-to-day basis, and making decisions of who gets fed and when to get fed. It's no surprise that the Hillsboro School District students, close to over 40% or so, have free or reduced lunch. My time's just about up, but I do want to make sure that this is there's a reason why the food bank cannot keep up with the food pantries locally, because families are constantly raiding or asking assistance for those to meet the food supply for their weekly nourishment for their families. Again, budgets are always fluid in discussion, and that we need to have making sure that going forward we don't alienate a community that is growing here in Hillsboro. Thank you for your time.
Michael Dale, and then on deck we have David Carlson.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. My name is Michael Dale. I'm 224 South Donaldwood Drive, News. We elect school boards to set educational policy for our schools. To begin with, wading into a social policy area like what minimum wage is very, very tangential to that function that you were elected to represent. Now, I suppose you could say that what you have to pay for people in the district has some impact on the schools and you have some responsibility. Would it not be better to devote the resources and good name of the Hillsboro School District Board to making sure that education is held harmless in the change in minimum wage, which could be done with the additional revenues that will result from more people paying taxes and the reduced costs from people moving out of poverty. To the extent that you're considering educational policy, I'm a lawyer and I represent low-wage workers. And I represent workers that are homeless. I represent workers that live 3 families in a 2 or 3 bedroom house. I represent workers who struggle to keep a house together. I represent workers that live in cars. A fair number of those workers are in your school district. And their children don't have a place to study, right? Live with uncertainty about whether they'll have enough to eat. And think of the loss of educational progress that happens every time a young person gets transferred in school to a new teacher in a new place because their parents have lost their home. Think of the agony people go through not knowing if they'll be warm that night. It's hard to focus on being a good student when those things are going on. So to the extent that, point 1, not your job, not your business, you shouldn't weigh in. But to the extent that it has any connection to education at all and what your job is, the overwhelming policy ought to be for education of kids, and that means secure homes, it means stable housing situations, it means enough to eat, enough to be able to dress properly when the time's up, but please reconsider your action.
David Carlson up, and then finally, Conley or Alex.
Hi, my name is David Carlson. I live off 185th and Rosa in Aloha, so technically I went to Beaverton School Districts. But that doesn't change the fact that while going to school, I spent many a day not eating because I was on reduced lunch, but my dad still was not making a living wage just to pay for that. So what did I do? I skipped school and I went home. You want to look at being 4th in the state for lowest graduation, or 4th in the country for lowest graduation. That's part of what's happening is people are too poor to eat at school, so they go home, they find a way to eat, and then they don't come back. That's just one example. But I find it funny that we're here in January at the beginning of the year, and you've just patted yourself on the back for the things that you've done throughout the year, which I'm sure you've done a lot of great things. Not going to deny that. But you talked about children learning at high levels. When those parents don't have enough money to pay for the food, those children are not at their peak performance. You said that this is in your purview, and which, true, legitimate. But if you're going to support something, if you're going to come out for or against something, really, you should be supporting a living wage of $15 an hour because your students and their parents deserve to live in dignity. Those children are dealing with parents who are working 2, 3 jobs at a time. Those children are not getting the attention that they need from their parents, and in turn they're dropping out of school and doing other things. Just a quick little statistic here: you have 53,143 people working in the city, the civilian workforce. Of those people, because the statistic is 37% of all Oregonians are making less than $15 an hour, you have close to 20,000 people in this city making less than $15 an hour. How many of those people have children who go to your schools? Think about that. Please support a living wage of $15 an hour. Thank you.
My name is Ashley Bardalis. I am actually a resident of Forest Road, 2609 13th Avenue. And I'm here as a representation as a single parent. It's hard to be a parent these days, and despite economic situations, I have to look at my children for the very short period of time that I have with them every day, and know that the time I'm spending away from them is going to hopefully affect their futures. This is much bigger than the sky is falling fear that we all have about budgets. I haven't eaten yet today because I can't afford to. And I'm doing everything I possibly can to put myself into a position that I've been working to get out of for 10 years. But my kids need to eat. And I look at these little tiny handprints of thank you. And I think how many of those handprints were hungry? How many of those handprints didn't get to see their parents? So when making a decision like this, we have to think much bigger than just the direct where's this money going to come from? It's terrifying. How many people is this going to affect, not just now, not just right now, but 6 years, 10 years, when those little tiny hands are in our workforce? Are they going to be well educated, which is our hope? Are they going to be strong and well nourished and loved? And be able to go out there and maybe be on the school board and make a difference and become representatives and become active members of our community? Or are they going to fall short because of the decisions that we make today? We cannot fail our children. So I just consider you, I urge you to consider as individuals and people who are doing your best to make decisions for our children, to please take the time to reconsider. Thank you.
Val, have we received any other? Thank you very much for your participation tonight. Let's consider everything that was said. With that, we will move on to our agenda. Go into reports and discussions. First up, we have Rob Saxton.
All right, well, Rob is coming to the microphone here. Let me just say how happy I am to have Rob as the superintendent of Northwest Regional PSD. In just the short time that he's been there, and he did assume a position in July of this last year. And in that short time, there's just been radical differences that have taken place. There's definitely been, and you've heard me talk about the value of the ESD, whether or not we're getting our value or not. There's been great value that's been placed on our opinion and value placed on the services that are being provided. The services are much more relevant than they have been in the past, and he and his staff have provided great support for us to do these soft things. So I invited Rob to come and give you an update on the annual report, and do know that, as I mentioned in board updates, that we are going to be reconsidering our decision to opt in, or to opt out of Northwest Regional BSD, and that will take place at the February meeting. So, Rob.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. And Chair Cliff, member of the board, Rob Saxton, I'm the superintendent of the Northwest Regional ESD. Barely get out that title. Some other titles. Anyway, it's really nice to be here tonight, and thank you for allowing me to come and present. I do want to talk about a couple different things. I want to keep some of it brief, and then some of it maybe spend just a little bit more time. Certainly, if you have questions along the way, make sure to stop me, or I can answer them at the end, or maybe you won't have any. I don't know, but we'll find out here. So, first of all, I want to present just really briefly on the 14-15 annual report, and I think you see this almost every year, and so I'd like to keep this part as brief as possible. See if I can figure out where to point this. No? Okay.
meeting works.
I got one on there, okay. Anyway, so I think you have an electronic copy of our annual report, which is the 14-15 annual report. And there are a couple different things that are in there. One of them is you're going to see what it looks like as far as what the service credits are that you receive through the ESD program, and then a little bit about what happened last year, what's happening this year, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we hope to accomplish as we head into next year. There really are four specific areas of support that we provide at the ESD. First is in special education, then instructional services, technology, and administrative supports. The way that the dollars get divided up, 10% come and stay with the ESD. Some of those dollars are spent just on ESD operations. Others are spent on program for school districts. It sort of depends on how we work that out each year. And then of the remaining 90%, 75% are service credits. A service credit, one service credit equals $1, and that dollar can be used by school districts basically as they see fit. And then the core services are 25%, and those are supposed to be services that all districts would be able to utilize, and so there's a pot of money for all districts to use those services. This is just a sheet that shows the various service credits that each district gets. I thought I'd break it out for you specifically, so you can see what happens in Hillsboro. For the 14-15 school year, the number of dollars that you received through the service credit process was $6.9 million and some change. You spent with the ESD roughly $4.5 million. Of that, $4 million were spent on special student services, which is largely special education. $132,000 spent on technology services, about $300,000 spent on other services, $15,000 on background checks. So that's basically how that $4.5 million breaks down, and then you got about $2.4 million more that will flow through dollars directly to your district. If you look at the local service plan sheet, you'll see that next year the number of dollars that you're slated to receive, and I'll just go back one, is $7.4 million. It's about a $473,000 increase. That's what's happening this year, and then I would assume that the dollar amount will go up again next year. There's a process that we use to set the local service plan. Sort of this process, just like a lot of school processes, that has a cycle that goes through over the course of the school year. This year, that cycle looked a little bit different, and quite frankly, it looked different because last spring, the ESD began to look at a different way to offer the local service plan, and the local service plan being the plan that all districts who participate in the ESD adopt, or all those who are participating in the ESD adopt. And then as we moved into June, and then to July when I came on board, I looked for even a maybe more different way to look at that in an effort, quite frankly, to figure out how we would offer value and services to both Beaverton and Hillsboro so that your districts would want to rejoin with the ESD. We think there's value in the partnerships that come from having all districts within the region participate with the ESD. So we spent quite a bit of time with the group that worked on that, made proposals. We headed into the fall, especially in October, and then early November when we met with all superintendents over the coast. At that point in time, we were able to secure support from all of the member district superintendents for unanimous approval of the local service plan that we put together for next year. There's details that I can give you a few parts of that if you'd like when we get toward the end, and I think Mike probably will talk about that a little bit too. And it would be the service plan that we would be asking you to adopt as you head forward prior to March 1st. And so again, if you have some questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I think the really important part here is that we know that in order to recapture your business, we need to make sure that we create value for every single district that we serve, and in particular for Beaverton and Hillsboro. I've kidded Mike a couple of times that in my goals this year, I put that all districts would be members of the ESD by next school year, so for the 16-17 school year. And I think that he thinks that sometimes the only reason that I'm pushing on this so hard is so that I meet my goal. And the truth of the matter is, I put it in my goals for a purpose. And the purpose is to say to myself, to everybody who works at the ESD, to other districts and superintendents, and to you all, that we are intentionally working to accomplish this, and that we want to set out with intentionality about how to do that. And that we know that we've got to be innovative in order to be able to do it, especially with districts the size of Beaverton and Hillsboro, and even Tigard-Tualatin, where I used to be superintendent. If we're not innovative, and if we're not in front of the curve, if we're not offering those districts things that they cannot offer themselves, either because there's a size issue or because they haven't just sort of gotten there, haven't conceptualized it yet, that we really have a hard time offering value, and that we've got to be innovative enough and thoughtful enough to get ahead of the curve and be willing once in a while to take some risks so that we can offer things that you all haven't gotten to yet. And we're working on that very hard, and I'm telling people we've got to be innovative and right near the bleeding edge. We also need to really listen to what it is that our districts want, and again, in particular, Hillsboro and Beaverton, so that we can offer the services that you're asking for. And the other thing that we know is that we've got to leverage funds. When we have a dollar, if you can use that dollar as effectively as we can, you ought to have it. And if we can use it more effectively than you would be able to, and we can actually create $1.01 worth of value, then we ought to have it, and we ought to be delivering it to you so that you get more than what you've been able to put in. And we think that we found some ways where we can do that. One of the things I've been really pleased about are some of the staff that we've been able to add to the ESD in just the short time that I've been there. And I know that I see some of your staff over here who had the opportunity to work with some of the people who have come on board. Sarah Pope, who used to be my chief of staff at the Oregon Department of Education, is now on board at the ESD. When you're as average as I am, you need to have really, really good people like Sarah around you so that you can be better than average. Sarah is one of those people who is fantastic. And she has been working on your behalf since arriving, and I think that she's doing a really nice piece of work. We also have conceptualized 3 areas specifically where we want to work. We want to work on within early learning, and we want it to be that because the ESD has participated in this work, children arrive at school in Washington, Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook counties more prepared to learn than they would have been but for the fact that we participated. And so in the other 3 counties, Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook, we are the hub. And in Washington County, we're members of the hub. We brought on a really wonderful expert named Dorothy Spence. Dorothy also came from Salem. Dorothy was on the staff with Dr. Rudy Crew for a short time and left that fairly early on in the process. And then she went to work for Tina Kotek, where she worked as a legislative director and gained lots of expertise in the area of early learning. And Tina has been a really big champion for early learning. And so she's working within both hubs. She's a great resource. The work that we've been doing most recently has been around what's called mixed delivery preschool, or the preschool promise. There's like 1,000 different promises that we have in Oregon right now. But the preschool promise very specifically is intended to, in areas of high poverty and in areas that have some capacity to deliver free preschool for children who are age 4 and live in a certain level of poverty. There are about 250 of those slots that are available, I believe, in Washington County, about 150 in the other counties, for a total of 400 within the ESD area. We're in a competitive grant process right now. We're putting that grant together. We think we have a really nice partnership put together that would bring several different counties and several different hubs together in order to be able to secure those resources, and we think it will make a difference for kids. The rest of the hub work really is about trying to convene all the different groups that have worked in early childhood over time and make them operate effectively together. It's a really neat trick, right? When you're talking about healthcare, schools, school districts, child care, various sundry early learning groups, including Head Start and Oregon Pre-Kindergarten, come together and use their resources to best effect to support kids so that they show up more ready to learn, and we think that we're having an impact on that work. Dorothy, again, is leading that, and we hope that we're able to secure some of the preschool promise slots. Career technical education and science, technology, engineering, and math is another focus for us, and we brought in Miranda Scheiding, who used to work in CTE STEM out in the David Douglas area. Miranda, again, a really successful person in that work, who's working diligently with various business partnerships, multiple districts to partner between themselves, and with the Northwest STEM Hub. So we recently wrote a grant to be the STEM holder for the Northwest part of the state, and that grant went in last week. We think we'll actually get that one. And then we're also working on some grants to deliver summer program services to kids and on after-school and extended programs to kids. And we think it's just really important that we make sure that middle school and high school students have learning experiences that are highly valuable to their future in the areas of STEM and CTE. And then lastly, a college-going effort. And in this effort, we're working to have all kids within the region leave high school with their Associate of Arts of Oregon transfer module or their Oregon transfer module, which basically is their first year of college that they would experience in high school and that they would get relatively, virtually free for their efforts. And it is a combination of working with the colleges in the area. So we have partnerships right now with Portland State University, PCC, Tillamook Bay Community College, and Clatsop Community College, in partnership with all 20 school districts, where we would match up college instructors with high school teachers, agree on what the common outcomes are for student learning, and design an assessment system to show that students have mastered knowledge that would be commensurate with college level material, and then award those students college credit. It's a replication of the Eastern Promise that came up out in Eastern Oregon, and then also the Willamette Promise. And again, the work that we have underway there is really strong. That's being led by Laura Cantor Fellows. Laura has worked across the nation, including in the Harlem Enterprise Zone and the Denver Public Schools as an innovation officer, and she's just really sharp. These are all people I can't wait for you all to meet because they're doing such great work. So we have that underway. We've been engaged in putting together a cadre of grant writers, and we've written grants all across the region for districts and combinations of districts. In your district, we help support the dual language grant, the CTE grant you were able to secure, again, the Northwest Promise and the summer school and extended school. And we've helped support you in earning, we think, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of grants. I think it's in the $700,000 range right now. And it's in partnership with the great staff you've been able to assemble here in your district, but also with some grant writers and some people who are able to think about grants in a different way than probably I had previous to my experience at the department. So we think that good work is underway. We're working on trying to put together what I would call expert-centered professional development, where we take experts from every district and create a cadre of people who could then go to other districts and provide high-quality professional development. We have a new strategic plan underway that our board will have a first reading on in February, and we hope will adopt in March. And you'll see us centered specifically on work that we have to do with the ESD, but with the intent to help improve attendance and graduation rates in districts within our region. We think that we actually have something to say and do about that, and we can deliver on that for all of our districts. And we also need to continue doing everything else that we've been doing around special education, technology, and the like. We are exploring the possibility of some additional behavior programs around elementary behavior programs. This is something that we're hearing quite a bit about from all superintendents across the region. It's a neat trick to be able to do that in Beaverton and Hillsboro, and then also match that up in Tillamook and Neocani, but we think that there are ways to get that done, and so that will be in our strategic plan as well. We have here a list of the board members. Our chair this year, Lisa Polis, is in Zone 3, which is a Hillsboro representative. Marilyn McGlasson also lives in the Hillsboro community. Renee Bruce works here in Washington County in the area of social services, and so those are all people who are closely affiliated with Hillsboro. With that, I'll be quiet. That's probably more time than you already wanted to hear from me, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the ESD.
Thank you. Janine?
I'm just going to share a few comments. I really appreciate your vision and your communicating your goals, not only just here tonight, but as far as that's your regular mission, is to be able to really put that together in all the areas where you speak. I've heard, I've spoken with you at the legislative summit that we just recently had. Also had the chance to sit with you at a table at the when OSBA we had our regional meeting, and I just think that, and I've said this to you, and I think it's important to say that Washington County, I believe, benefits from your position that you are at in Northwest Regional ESD, because of that you provide us a very unique perspective from not only are you a former superintendent, but also your position at the state. And I believe that Washington County is very fortunate to have that perspective. So wanted to say that, and I love the idea of your continuing that vision, continuing that communication with breaking down the silos of education and really looking at how you can provide a service that others can benefit from at a cost-effective way and beneficial to students. So thank you, and that vision of the pre-K, and you took us all the way to college and career. And So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you very much. So just, I appreciate that very much. And it is interesting in this position. It's certainly a different position for me than I've held previously, but I'm genuinely excited about the work that we have underway. And I think we can make a big difference for kids throughout the region and what it is that they receive. Leverage-wise, we put $75,000 into a pot. Districts helped us with $75,000 this year to put together a cadre of grant writers that I talked about. So far, we've secured about $4.5 million worth of resource. That's true leverage, and that's the kind of work that we need to have underway if we're going to be doing what we need to do.
Remind me, if there are questions, there are fancy buttons now. You don't have to press it at this point, but Brian, welcome to speak. But that helps me.
First off, welcome to your position. Thank you very much for coming to see us tonight. I really like one of your comments in particular. I mean, I was generally impressed by the entire presentation, but the thing that stuck out to me was your attitude that where we can create more value, we should do it, but where you can create more value, you should do it. And I have to say, I completely 100% agree with that. So if there's a business case that we go with you guys, totally open for it. So it's not some philosophical thing. It's like, no, for me. So sure. I look forward to exploring all that stuff over our time. And again, thank you for serving at a more local level.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, we have a report from Beth on district transfer overview.
Okay, so this should be pretty quick. I put some background information in your board packet, just kind of reminding you about the two current mechanisms that students and families have for transferring between districts. And the first of those is coming up in March with open enrollment. And the second one will be a little bit later in the spring, House Bill 2747. Last year at this time, when we were talking about these two different mechanisms, I was mentioning that those of us that manage student transfers were really watching the legislature to see what they would do to hopefully implement some fixes, what we would call fixes to 2747, because we found there to be some problematic elements to its first year of implementation the year prior. And they did, in fact, help us out with a few things in the last session. The biggest of those was the provision that allowed students who moved after the window had closed to remain in their previous district of residence for the ensuing year. And in fact, we have 66 students right now to whom that applies. So that might be interesting to you. So students that were living in Hillsboro that have moved but are still in Hillsboro for this school year, and their only opportunity to stay after the school year would be if we were to open slots and allow them the opportunity to come back if that's what they chose to do. Along with that comes the ability to provide preference to students who have lived in this district. So there is that. We already have the ability to provide sibling preference, just kind of for your information. We don't know, because there's no requirement to alert other districts, so we don't know how many students perhaps used to live in a different district and moved to Hillsboro and have chosen to stay in their current district and will be coming to us next year. We'll just have to kind of see how that plays itself out. But as I mentioned in the situation page, we do intend to participate in both processes in good faith and taking a look at what we can reasonably expect to accommodate at our schools. So I will be coming to you at the February meeting with a proposal for the number and location of slots that we intend to open, and we can discuss the details at that time. Although if you have any kind of guiding thoughts or questions right now, I'm happy to entertain those.
Appears to be none. Thank you. We look forward to numbers in February. Okay. We are up next with Mike and the strategic plan.
All right, as you know, each quarter we give you an update on how we're doing on the strategic plan areas for this particular year. And as usual, we'll go through one by one, beginning with instruction.
Instruction, wonderful. So our challenge always is to choose the ones we want to talk about most, because we're doing some amazing things. So under the category of achievement gaps, so we noticed through looking at our data that one of the subgroups of students that we are serving at least well are those kids who are dual identified as being emerging bilinguals and also students with special needs. So we've chosen 3 schools, one at the elementary, middle, and high school level, who have agreed to pilot some individual language learning plans, specifically partnering their language needs with their special learning needs and creating specific plans so we can track their progress over time and make sure that we are meeting both sets of needs. So that's kind of a new thing for us. So we've identified those schools and have begun working to devise those plans. We have also revised our bilingual program model rubric. As we have new ELP standards, we have needed to go back and look at that bilingual program model rubric and make sure that it's in line with the standards, because the standards help us access the language, but also work to support our students accessing standards within the classroom. And so we're really excited about our new rubric, which our principals have been introduced to, and they will be reevaluating themselves currently so that we can use it in our next planning phase. We continue to support our teachers to make sure that they have the training they need to continue with our model of sheltered instruction, focus on integrated ELD, and bilingual education for those students in dual programs. Under Common Core, math has been a big push for us. Our math scores are not where we want them to be, so with our new math adoption at the secondary level, we've spent a lot of time working with those teachers in particular with the new rollout of our new program, as well as making sure that we provide for those professional development needs in the schools. And we've been really creative, buying out prep periods of our high school teachers and doing more modeling, which has been great. We have also continued to do the training for elementary teachers, including a program called AIMS Math, which basically helps our students. It's kind of a visual process which helps our teachers and our students continue to learn the math but keep it up so that they can reference it more like a glad chart. So that's been great training that we've been able to utilize, which helps our kids go deeper with those math concepts. And then we've spent quite a bit of time talking about math instruction and those 8 mathematical practices and calibrating with our principals and PLCs, as well as working with our teacher leadership team to make sure that we're embedding those math practices in the math instruction and not just the algorithmic math, but how do we talk about math and how do we collaborate in different strategies to solve math problems. And then finally, under evaluation and accountability, we've been calibrating over the last couple years around our math practices, or not our math practices, our instructional practices. And this fall, under the leadership of Grant and Ted, the principals worked together to come up with a K-12 walkthrough document focused under the 5 dimensions of teaching and learning, which our instructional model is fashioned after. And we did sampling in the fall as baseline data to see which practices we were implementing well, and then we're able to utilize that data to focus on a few key strategies that we felt had the greatest leverage for improving student achievement. So we're continuing to support those through professional development and focus on those in the trainings as well. And then, what's the last one under that? So many great things. AVID strategies. We have 2 new AVID elementary schools this year, and all of our secondary schools are AVID. As principals and teachers began learning about AVID and how much it supported our students, our 6th grade teachers and our elementary principals wanted to learn some strategies so that our students consistently saw those strategies early, so that when they went to middle and high school, they already knew how to do Cornell notes and Socratic seminar and some of those strategies. So all of our 6th grade teachers have had training by our district level TOSA on some of those key strategies, so we can begin to give all of our students access to those strategies in their instruction. Questions? Good.
So just while Devin hasn't moved the screen quite yet, now he has, I just wanted to remind folks, as a point of reference, if you click on the column heading, you'll pull up, the column heading actually, you'll pull up the full report for the quarterly update. So just if you're interested in reading everything that went on that was fit to print for each of the strategy areas, you can click in there. What's dynamic on the page in the HTML format are just some highlights within each area. And for my part in particular, I'm just going to call out 4 items that I thought were kind of interesting and wanted to make sure you knew about. We have a new partnership with the City of Hillsboro where we are creating short videos for them to display at the end of city council meetings on a quarterly basis. And it's just an opportunity to really get the great stories of students in front of our city council members, and it gives us a nice opportunity to be broadcast on Closed Circuit TV. So for all the wonderful watchers of city council meetings, we're very appreciative of their attention to school matters. So that was a fun new thing that we've done. We've highlighted both the coding club at Free Orchards Elementary School. They're called Spiros, and they can code these wonderful little balls, and the kids love it. And then also the food drive effort that took place at Orenco Elementary School. So we'll be working on a couple more videos throughout the spring to share at city council meetings. We did our fall edition of A Look Inside Hillsboro Schools, our 16-page district-wide newsletter that gets printed on newsprint and direct mailed out to approximately 50,000 homes in the Hillsboro School District area. We actually, for the first time this year, translated the entire thing into Spanish, which was a really big task, but really great that we're able to have a version in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. So that was direct mailed out to our families who indicated their home language is Spanish. And then some overrun copies will be distributed around the community. So that is great. We have over 7,200 people who have downloaded the district app, which is an increase of over 1,000 people since the end of October. Nothing like some snow events to really amp up your communication channels. So we're happy for that. And a lot of our principals are really using that quite a bit these days to get updates out to their parent community about upcoming events, and we're loving seeing that extra traffic on our district app. And finally, just wanted to make sure that you were aware that we have created an infographic to describe kind of the closing of the loop with each of our thought exchange processes. If you'll remember, back in November, a gentleman arrived at the school board meeting and kind of said, what do you do with this information? And we thought, we could do a lot better job kind of summarizing each process, what we learned, and then what some specific follow-up activities or what we intended to do with that information. So Jane created a wonderful infographic about that that's up on our website now. We actually shared that with the parent company Thought Exchange, and they loved it so much, they immediately asked if they could use that as an exemplar for their other districts. And so they have done that, and there's already other districts around the country and in Canada that are wanting to replicate that. So I think that's a really nice nod to how this process is supposed to work, with our community weighing in and us taking their feedback and doing something great with it. So.
We pause it. Kim, did you want to jump in with a question?
I had a question for Dale, and it's only sort of related, but when you were talking about the secondary math adoption, it made me think about the Bridges adoption. Is this year 6?
Let me count back. Yeah, I think it is year 5.
And the reason I ask is I remember working with first graders, and I want to say they were the first cohort, and I think they're 6th graders. I was so intrigued about what would happen after that first cohort had learned in that method the whole way. And so now I'm just trying to refresh my brain if they are 5th or 6th graders this year.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it. I can't remember.
When you're talking about the adoption, I thought it was something.
I think you are right. I think it is 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll let you know.
So in the area of facilities, the big news is that we completed the boundary adjustment process. That was one of the goals for the facilities strategy area, was to complete that. Whether we move forward with it or not, we reached completion. We have both Hillsboro Butte School Boards obviously approved the boundary adjustment. We've now are working directly with Washington, Multnomah, and Yamhill counties as their boundary boards to get everything finalized at that level. And then assuming nobody challenges that, then that will become the law of the land, and the boundary adjustment will be complete. The other big news is that our long-range planning committee continues to meet on a monthly basis. We're actually scheduled to do an update for you at the February 9th work session. We will be bringing along Frank Angelo from the Angelo Planning Group, who is a consultant we've been working with, has a long track record of very successful work with school districts in particular around facilities planning and then transitioning into bond programs. So I'm looking forward to having you meet Frank and have him describe the work that he'll be doing at the meeting on the 9th.
Thank you, Adam. Seeing no other questions, we will move back to Adam. Financial report.
Oh, you want to hear from
Oh, sorry. Adam looks like he was.
He's ready to go.
I'll keep talking. No, you gotta talk about it.
You want to talk about equity a
You
little
gotta keep me
bit.
honest. Keep going.
So we've had quite a bit of professional development around our equity since we last reported to you. We're really excited that we got to kick off our brand new professional development that has been created, the multiple perspectives and interracial dialogue. And we had 25 participants in that, both staff and community. It went over very well. The feedback was very positive about the format of that opportunity. The next one is scheduled for February 2nd, the next conversation. So we're really looking forward to expanding that in the district. We also have had 2 new sessions of Taking It Up. Taking It Up is a dialogue session that we have with staff, and we've gotten some amazing reviews that have been shared with us, especially this last session. The facilitators are doing an amazing job at facilitating some pretty difficult conversations, and so we're looking forward to, we have a lot more opportunities this year to provide that Taking It Up opportunity for our staff, for staff development. We also had our administrators attend a 2-hour session on LGBTQ, on meeting the needs of our students and staff in the district. This is very important work that we're doing to create our awareness and to be able to meet the needs of our diverse community that we have here in Hillsboro. We're really excited too. I share Dale's enthusiasm. We, in our recruitment, we have a new group. We had more than 10 classified staff members come and express an interest in entering our Bilingual Teacher Pathways program, which is kind of a grow your own program. And these programs that we have are really critical in us being able to staff the classrooms that we have now with our bilingual needs. We also have 13 prospective new high school students that are interested in going on to Western and being our second cohort for teachers that will then come back to the district and teach for us. And these are our bilingual staff. It's so exciting to sit down and meet with these students because we go through kind of an interview process with them to see what their interests are as they graduate high school and enter into an education program. So we're really excited about that and bringing our kids back to teach in our district. So those are some of the highlights that we've got going on.
Am I doing something?
Do you want to do it, or do you want me to? 'Cause I
You
think
feel,
the
all right, you go right
summary-
ahead.
It's pretty quick. Since I did the summary here, it might be faster for me to do it. Casey was just highlighting the fact that each secondary school now has a group specifically organized to lead anti-bullying and harassment efforts in our middle schools and high schools, which is great. That expansion, if you'll remember, went from our high schools down to our middle schools this year. And he's also pulling together an anti-bullying conference for those students that are involved in those efforts at each of our secondary schools to participate in this spring. So that's upcoming. And then he's also conducted a couple of tabletop scenarios with our administrators, one earlier in the fall and then one most recently at the December leadership meeting, that had them kind of go through what it would look like if we had to go through a parent reunification exercise. And in fact, he's currently planning a spring drill with Hillsboro Fire and Hillsboro Police. So that's yet to come as well. Pretty exciting.
I can do the financial report now.
So I was a little gun shy.
Yes, so the financial report was included in your packet. A couple of things I'd like to highlight. First of all, I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce, I think you all know Michelle Morrison. She's our manager of business services. But I also wanted to introduce Jeff Jones. Jeff is here because we're going to be introducing or presenting the audit here shortly. But Jeff has stepped up in a huge way for us this year. Our former accountant, general ledger accountant, Ann Ballard, left kind of right in the middle of the whole preparation of the audit. And Jeff stepped in, has since been promoted to that position. But even before that, he stepped up and kind of took charge of things and really served us well. So thank you, Jeff. Nice work. A couple of highlights from the report that I'm sure you are all going to be asking about, so I'll bring it up. In the student incident report page, you're going to see a pretty significant increase in the numbers of student incidents that have been reported. And that is due to not so much the fact that we've got more students getting hurt, it's that we have moved to an online reporting system that is, and we've done a much better job of training our building level staff on when and how to report those things. So we're actually really pleased to see that the system is being used as well as it is. It gives us and our risk manager an opportunity to follow up on these on a very regular basis and make sure that we're addressing any concerns that are coming up at the building level. So that was one. The other one is on the last page of the financial report. Something jumped out at me as I was looking at it that I don't have an answer for, but under the purchase services, under the community services piece, we have purchase services there. We have a budget of $22,000, and so far we've spent $77,000 this year. I know part of that is due to translation services, and I'm not sure what the rest of it is. I know we're not doing anything new and different, so I'm guessing that we are now paying something out of that line item that used to come out of somewhere else. So I've got some more digging to do on that one, and I will let you know. But if Monty was here, I know that was going to come up. So, any other questions regarding the financial report?
Okay. Thank you very much, and for everyone for the report outs. It's very informative. Next, I would be looking for a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
Motion is made by Kim and seconded by Janine to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussion? Janine?
Mine's just a quick comment and to say that how much I appreciate when that we bring in our adopting policies into this. I think it's a good time saver for us that we have a lot of discussion beforehand, and so unless there's any hot issues, it doesn't. So I think that's a great time saver.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is we'll move to our action items. 9A will be to accept the 2014-15 audit report with balance.
So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Larry Grant from our audit firm, Grove Mueller Swank. Larry and Michelle and Jeff had an opportunity to sit down with our audit committee. Lisa, congratulations. You did it. So with Lisa and Monty and talk about the report, but I wanted to give Larry a chance to talk about anything you might, or at least give you an opportunity to ask Larry any questions you might have. Did everybody get their copy? Because if Larry could probably autograph it or something. So anyway, Larry, did you have any prepared remarks, or would you just like to answer questions?
I'm happy to make it as long or short as you want.
Make it short.
Yeah. I mean, I can walk through a couple pages if you want, or we can just
hit the highlights
for questions if you've had a chance to look at the report.
Why don't you talk about the significant change that happened this year?
I think that's worthy of comment. Just quickly, if you turn to page 133, my wife's a high school librarian, she always starts at the back of the book. So I've learned from her that sometimes that's not a bad thing. This page 133 basically summarizes all of the audit results for you, and you get an A+. There's unmodified opinions, there's no material weaknesses, so there's really no findings. The only thing that popped out that is worthy of comment is on page 137, a couple pages later. There was actually 135. At the bottom of the page, there was just 2 items that we reported on that were found in the minimum standards audit procedures. There were two teachers out of 25 that we located that were not reported correctly, and so that this affects your funding a little bit. So it's not a common thing in the school district. This is a very common finding, as well as the next one, which is on page 35, I believe. In the footnotes, there's a reporting of the over expenditures, which is also very common. So,
regarding the teacher testing, part of the funding from the state is based on our experience of our teachers. So part of Larry's job is to come in and look at what we're reporting in terms of teacher experiences compared to what our records show. So that was one of the...
Yeah. There was a new House bill passed last year in the legislative session that requires the board to, well, the district to respond in writing to the Secretary of State Division of Audits, and the board to actually act on any findings that are reported to just let them know what you're doing to fix the situation. So I've talked to Michelle about that, and she'll be preparing a communication with them and a resolution for the board to act on. Also, has anybody ever heard of GASB 68? Is that common discussion?
Oh, yes.
Lisa, you want to explain to the rest of the Well, the GASB is the Government Accounting Standards Board, and they set the bar for everyone to jump over as far as financial reporting for governments. And this year there was a new pronouncement that was implemented throughout governments in the United States. That's GASB 68, which basically requires governments to report their pension liabilities on their statement of net position. So it's kind of a unique situation with Oregon with the PERS for the current year, June 30, 2015. PERS actually has a PERS asset instead of a pension asset rather than a pension liability. So the effect of that you might notice in your, if you're looking at for instance, the management's discussion and analysis, if you're comparing last year to this year as far as expenses, you're going to see big decreases in 2015 expenses perhaps, where you're going to see large increases in 2016 expenses because that pension asset is going to become a pension liability next year. So that's really, they're just trying to get everybody on the same page as far as moving from year end to year end, what the liability changes or those will be reflected in your expenses. So it doesn't affect your cash flow, which is the way you manage this.
It's just a new item on our balance sheet that hasn't been there before and makes a significant difference. And it's something that we don't have any control over. We actually get a spreadsheet from PERS that says, here is your pension liability, and that's what we hand over to the president.
And the same thing is coming down the road for the OPEB, which are post-employment benefits. There's just a big movement to make sure that for this afternoon we talked about leases a little bit in a meeting that we had. They're just wanting to put everything on the balance sheet so that all of your liabilities are measured at the end of each year, so you can just really see what's going on
Thank you.
Lisa, did I hit it?
Yeah, you did an
Okay.
excellent job. I would have said that.
Eric, you had a comment?
Yeah, you kind of anticipated my question. I was going to ask for more clarification on the items at the bottom of page 135. In particular, what does this over expenditure mean? Does that mean Adam actually wrote a bad check at one point? Or
That means he broke the speed limit.
The appropriation is the level that the board sets for each function within the budget, within each of the different funds. And in this case, we exceeded the expenditures for a particular function line item, not for the total of the budget, but we exceeded in that particular.
So does this relate to the issue you mentioned a few minutes ago in the financial report or in the community
That
services?
could
you
be if
informed
we
about?
don't figure that part out. That is for the current year, this is for a prior year.
Okay, it's probably a similar issue.
Yes.
Eric, on page 37, you'll see a list of the spots where the legal authority to spend is exceeded in a major appropriation area. So that's where those are disclosed. Any other questions? I would like to say a nice word about Adam and Michelle and Jeff. It really is a pleasure to work with people who are anxious to improve and have the type of environment that is really conducive to internal controls. And the tone at the top really is important in setting the example for just the whole district. So, and that starts with you as well. So thank you for the job you guys do to set that tone.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, and with that report, I will be looking for a motion to accept the audit report.
I move that we accept the audit report as just presented.
Second?
Motion is made by Eric and seconded by Janine to approve or accept the 2014-15 audit report as presented. Any comments or questions further? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have the opportunity to ratify the agreement with the Hillsboro Classified Union. Debbie?
Yes.
Press.
So on January 20th, we reached a tentative agreement with Hillsboro Classified United for a new 3-year contract. I have reviewed the highlights of the contract changes with the board. And do you have any questions about those?
See no questions? Okay. I would be looking then for a motion to ratify the agreement with Hillsboro Classified Union.
Make a motion to approve the 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Hillsboro Classified United, effective July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2018, as tentatively agreed to by the district bargaining team.
Motion is made by Janine and seconded by Lisa to ratify the agreement as described. Any further questions or comments?
I just.
Oh.
Say
You gotta push my button. Janine?
I just wanted to say thank you very much for all the time and energy and that goes into working for everyone involved in working these bargaining sessions. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the updates. Very thorough on all the updates and communication, and I think that's really part of the key process.
Thank you. Antoine?
Well, just curse the technology here. I wasn't fast enough to basically say the same thing. I just wanted to express my appreciation to everyone who sat down and worked for a very long time through just a plethora of things. And it was hours and hours. I wasn't able to finish up, with the group that finally did it. I got it done, but I appreciated getting to know all you guys on both sides. And it was, I won't call it an enjoyable experience, but it was great working with you guys, and I do appreciate so much the effort that everyone brought to the table. So thank you again very much, and congratulations on reaching the agreement.
Thank you. I would echo that. And with that, I would ask all those in favor of approving the agreement as specified, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Good. With that, we'll move into reports from the ESD. Then HCU and HE, whichever order you care.
I'm Dean Fender, VP of Bargaining and Chief Steward for Hillsboro Classified United. And I would like to express my appreciation for the bargaining team, the Hillsboro School District bargaining team. I think that we went into this, I went into this without knowing quite where this was going to go. This was my first year as bargaining chair and first year on the bargaining team. And it took us a long time to plow through this. We took a really comprehensive look at the whole contract from end to end and tried to, our goal was to be, clarity and fairness was our goal. And I think that the district embraced that goal too. So when things when things were discussed, it was, let's make this more clear, easier to understand. Our goal was so that you could pick up the contract, read the contract, and anyone that picked it up could understand what was in it. So we feel we ironed out several of the wrinkles and confusions that in the contract, and came up with a better understanding of the document in all. I want to thank not only the bargaining team, but the support that the Chief Financial Officer had and his crew had in providing us all the tools we really needed to analyze the financial end of it, which would have been a terribly complicated thing if we hadn't had that help. He was willing to take a look at modifying some of the tools to make it easier for us to see where we were headed and to come to an agreement. I think that was probably the easiest part of the whole process because of his, that part. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you ratified it tonight. We're going to be, next week, we're going to be trying to meet the deadline of the 5th by putting together some pretty quick turnaround on things. And we're still working with in the details on the exact verbiage. There might be some things that need to be checked and crossed and modified from some of our ones. So, thank you.
Hi. The Hillsboro Education Association congratulates Hillsboro Classified United and the district and the board on completing a collective bargaining agreement and ratifying at least with one group. Thanks. We're happy to see that. Congratulations. And in the month of January, the members of the Hillsboro Education Association acknowledge and show appreciation for our shared goal of supporting our students toward success. Sometimes that support includes seemingly small things such as shoes, glasses, and coats. HEA is contributing $100 to the OEA Foundation for Children in honor of the Hillsboro School Board, and that will support some of those purchases, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike.
All right, just a few comments. I had the opportunity to go and visit the Brookwood Chess Club a couple days ago, and there's a long story that goes with it, but I won't tell that story tonight, but just suffice it to say I played a 4th grader and he beat me in 9 moves, but he played like a 5th grader, so I was really at a disadvantage. It was a great time. 52 kids at 7 in the morning and just having a great time. I was a hero briefly for bringing in the donuts, and then when I lost to 9 moves, my hero status plummeted. So I'd also like to thank Kim for all of your work on the Legislative Summit. Just from the time we spent on the phone, the times we met, I know all of the time you put in on that, and I appreciate your efforts. I think the format that we had was good. I loved having the student panel and giving Andy a chance to talk to the legislators. I thought was worthwhile as well, so thank you for all that work. I know that I have a great team that support the district, but tonight I want to talk about Adam and Debbie in particular. The bargaining that has been done over this last year has been, well, you put in a lot of time. So I appreciate, Debbie takes the lead on that, but her partner in crime is Adam, and together they make a great team. And just the work they do and the patience and the stick-to-itness to get to a fair deal is appreciated. So thanks to both of you, much appreciated. And finally, thank you to board members, Board Appreciation Month. And it's not fair that you get appreciated one meeting once a year, but just on behalf of all the students that you serve, we appreciate everything that you do. So thank you.
Lisa.
Oh.
Working time?
Yeah, so I'm really excited that we ratified the agreement with HCU this evening. Now, I've gotten the opportunity to vote yes on 2 collective bargaining agreements, which makes me really happy. So I understand it was a particularly long bargaining season, so I'm glad that your hard work has come to an end. Whoever was involved. I didn't know that we did a School Board Appreciation Month. I don't know if you guys never got presents for the years that I came before I was on the board, if I just didn't pay attention. But I'm really excited that we got presents, and if I were going to choose a food to go with me on a desert island, actually popcorn would be my choice. It is my Achilles heel, so whoever thought of that is specifically catering to Lisa's deepest food desire. So I do appreciate that. Thank you, Liberty High School. And everyone who did that. That's really nice. Everybody was going to meeting me here. I think it was a nice little perk. And I have had a great time at the Legislative Summit. I'm glad that Kim put so much time into that. So I look forward to doing it before a regular session for the legislators. I think it'll be a little bit more spicy. So.
First off, I want to thank everybody who came and talked to us tonight, including those who don't particularly agree with us. I want you to know that I actually do value very much and take seriously your point of view, so thank you very much. I appreciated that it was respectful when it was done, and come on back anytime. That's awesome that we do it. I think that I personally share many of the goals that you had put out there. I have a different method for doing it. I won't take everybody through that tonight. It's late. But I do appreciate what you're doing, so thank you for showing up and putting in the time.
Eric.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I also just wanted to add to Glenn's comments. Thanks for coming and talking. And I think it's important to emphasize that, those of us who voted, on that resolution about the minimum wage last time, it wasn't because we don't care about people in poverty. We believe that this is the better way to help the people in poverty. That's a longer discussion we should have elsewhere. But feel free to call me sometime.
So I just want to thank everyone for attending the summit. We had 75 students and adults from around Washington County, from Banks and Gaston to Decker, Tarleton, Sherwood, and Hillsboro did us proud. We had a student speaker from Brown Middle School. We had a student panel with students from different high schools all around the county, and then our student advisory council members served as facilitators, which was a new piece we've never done before, and they were very well received. Which leads me to the Student Advisory Council, the Superintendent's Advisory Council. Boy, what a treasure are they. Spending an hour with them and hearing their thoughts and goals for themselves, their peers, and their siblings and younger children in their neighborhoods. We just need to spend more time with them. And finally, I was elected to the LPC for OSBA. Whoop, whoop. And I go this weekend for my first event, which is 24 hours of getting up to speed, and I haven't read my packet yet, so I don't know about it. But I look forward to sharing when I come back. So that's it.
I just wanted to say that this is just really incredible. I appreciate this very much. I'm very thankful for this position that I've been on the school board for 7 years now, and It's an incredible experience, and to do something that I love to do and find such joy in doing for our students, and that my family supports me in this endeavor is huge, because there is that balance of giving up your family time for something that you're very passionate about. So I'm very thankful. One of the things that I'm having an opportunity to do on Friday is volunteer at an event called Project Homeless. And it's my second year of doing so, and it's an incredible event. To be able to be there and see the level of support that our community gives to other community members. And I particularly get to work in the salon, and this is my second year doing so, and I love it. I get to check in people, I get to wash hair, I get to talk to them, I take before and after photos, and I just love it, because when they leave that salon, they have a different feel, a different feeling than they walked into that room with, and I think that's incredibly rewarding. So I urge anyone, because it's also incredible when you see how many people walk through the door, and how many people that our community is faced with homelessness and poverty in our community. So I encourage folks to really get involved and see what is happening in our community. And I just really appreciate our partners in our district. When you look at our donation page and you look at HSF for donating to our CTE programs, and please remember that. And the amount, $20,000 this past month. Remember that when you're attending their auction, or when you have the opportunity to support them. The amount that they do to support our students is incredible. I want to talk a little bit about the student advocates. I'm so proud of the fact that our student voice is so loud and so eloquent in our district. With not only do we have at Century High School, do we have a TED Talk style talk coming up that everyone should attend on Tuesday, 3:45, but also to see those students at the Legislative Summit and hear their words that came from them. Nobody told them, nobody was standing over them saying, you must say this. They said it from their experiences, and that's incredible to listen to that. And to our board and our superintendent, our BSAT students, and the level of advocacy that they do and professionalism that they have for their education. So thank you very much, Kim, for bringing those students together for the Legislative Summit, and I congratulate you on your position. And I'm really super excited to see my son Jordan. He's a master's student for his special education degree at Western Oregon. Go Wolves! Whoop, whoop. But I'm super excited to see his kindergarten teacher here tonight. And the fact that you can see that, and you can see that where he started and where he is now. It takes a village, and I just thank you all for being village people. So.
I won't take any more than time to come off that. Let me merely express my thank you also to the bargaining team to reach the financial agreement. That's a phenomenal success. To Kim and the event, it was really inspiring, very well received, and it was wonderful to see, especially I believe the participation of the students were the highlight in speaking and really showing the dynamic skills that they developed, and that's one of the reasons we're all here. So thank you all very much. It's been a wonderful January. Looking forward to another great month coming up. And with that, let us be adjourned.